The event was meant to be a break, but work seems to follow me everywhere. It started when I was speaking to a dwarf. He was telling me about the plums he grew in the orchard out back, but then he stopped talking and looked through me instead of at me. I turned around and saw what he was looking at. Some people getting arrested by the Knights of the Sunflowers. There was a man in a red tunic and two women, one in a blouse of black and blue and another in a blouse of blue and black. I ignored it. I am off duty, I thought. Leave it to the Knights of the Sunflowers. They're the ones in armor, not me. I decided to go to another room to play a game with some elves. I didn't understand the game for the elves talk quickly, but it was exciting to be part of it precisely because the elves speak quickly. There were two hosts for the game, an older woman and an older still woman. One had grey hair and one had greyer hair. Both walked around with the vigors of youth. They shouted quickly the points of the different groups, and somehow my group had some points, which was a surprise since I hadn't joined a group when I entered the room. It had looked like a big tavern, so I thought I could sit and watch, regardless I was playing, and I suppose that was good since I had come to play with the elves. Then while the older still woman was talking quickly at the older woman, her greyer hair flashing, she stumbled once, twice, then her words became jumbled and mumbled like she forgot how to use her tongue. The older woman guided the older still woman to a bench and helped her sit down while all the elves looked on in worry and sympathy. "Are you well?" the older woman asked the older still woman. "You stumbled and started mumbling there." The older still woman looked at the older woman as if confused by the situation. "I'm afraid I'm struggling with some pain in my back." The older woman nodded and the elves looked on with empathy. "How about we end the game there then?" the older woman said. "You should go to your room and rest." With that, some elves guided the older still woman upstairs and the rest cleared out of the tavern-like room, leaving me alone with the older woman. I approached her with two sides of me warring. One side was saying, "This is a break, this is a break," but the other side was empathetic and had been influenced by the elves around it. So when I stood before the older woman, I said, "I worry about the other host. Perhaps we should check up on her." I said other host because I thought it rude to call her the older still woman, for that would suggest that the woman in front of me was old still, and no elf liked to be called old. I should know, I did it once. The older woman looked at me with worry in her eyes. "I'm afraid that won't be possible," she said. "Why not?" I asked. This was getting suspiciously close to work. "Because she is not the only one, and it seems to be contagious." I sighed. "Well then, don't leave me in the dark." She looked almost happy to be talking to someone who she sensed could understand, so she gestured for me to walk with her and I did. Oh, I did. We exited the tavern-like room and entered the next area. I was not sure whether to call it a hall or a hallway. It wasn't quite big enough to be called a hall, for that suggested a room, like a throne room or a council room. But a hallway suggested a corridor, and it certainly wasn't only that. I decided on Way Hall because that seemed to be in between, so we entered the busy Way Hall and walked and talked. "Multiple staff members have been acting odd," she explained. "Some who are the nicest, most wonderful people have been arrested by the Knights of the Sunflowers for criminal, horrible, and sometimes outright degrading acts in public." I found myself understanding why the man's red tunic was red and possibly why the women's blouses were black and blue and black. "Others, like the young host of the game," she said, and I tried not to laugh. Of course an older elf would call an older still elf young, no doubt hoping to be called younger still. She continued, "Have fallen sick when they were otherwise healthy." "I see," I said. We had to go single file for the way hall was so busy and for some odd reason there were chairs on one side. I found myself in front of the older woman, so I stopped and turned around as I wanted to look her in the eyes for the answer to my question. "Only the staff?" She nodded. "Only the staff." I didn't hear the end of her sentence, however, as out of the corner of my left eye, from the chairs on the other side of the way hall, I saw a woman in a red dress come charging at us. She launched a fist right at my face, so all I could do was back up quickly, dodging it by a minutia. Her fist hit the wall of the way hall, and blood dripped from her knuckles. Everyone else in the way hall stopped to stare with wide eyes and wider mouths as the woman in the red dress glared at me. She lifted the hand with the bloody knuckles and pointed. "He is the one that killed me," she screamed, guttural and vicious. I didn't have time to dispute with the logic that she was still alive, hence I couldn't have killed her, assuming she wasn't a seer with loose lips, because she charged at me again. I tried to back away, really not wanting to get pulled into work. I tripped though, over a chair. The way hall was busy and someone decided to put chairs on either side of it. Seemed a lot like no mischief to me. I fell to the ground hard and the woman grabbed the chair and tossed it out of her way even harder. I was on my backside and she was on her feet, so I couldn't do much when she ran at me with her long yellow tongue hanging out her mouth. But she didn't run at me, she ran to the side of me, got to her hands and knees and vomited a thick, viscous black and blue liquid, just as I had expected. Then she collapsed. Everyone in the way hall was still and silent. I pressed 2 fingers to the woman in the red dress's neck. No pulse. I sighed and stood up. The older woman approached me, tears streaming down her face. What's going on here? Why is this happening? Now, there was no warring 2 sides of me. It's a curse, I told her. It was time to get to work.